Welcome into Steelers Talk. I'm your host, Jack Sparrow. We got a lot of Steelers news and rumors to cover on today's program. First, we're going to talk about a potential new timeline for Aaron Rodgers to make his decision by, now that the Steelers are apparently willing to wait past the NFL draft here for him to make his decision. Then we'll talk about ESPN's Ryan Clark, who made an absolutely ridiculous take on the state of the Pittsburgh Steelers and their quarterback situation on ESPN yesterday. And then we'll finish up today's show with a double dose of good news for your Pittsburgh Steelers. Before we get into the content today, we are trying to break the record for the month of May on our channel for the most new subscribers gained on a singular video. On Steelers Talk here, our record is 97 new subscribers. So that's the number to beat. So our goal today, we want to get to triple digits for the first time in May in our channel's history. Click that subscribe button if you haven't already. And new viewers, we are counting on you guys. All right, the people, the real ones that have already clicked that subscribe button, they can't help us out here. In order to reach our goal today, it's got to be the new people. It's got to be the new blood. It's got to be the people that are finding our channel for the first time or have watched some of our videos and haven't signed on yet. Well, what are you waiting for, guys? Try us out for a week. Help us get to 100 new subscribers today. I promise you guys, the only thing that you're going to regret is that you didn't click that button sooner. All right, now let's get into our first topic today, which surrounds, of course, Aaron Rodgers. And we've talked a lot about Rodgers here over the last about 2 months since the start of NFL free agency, and he still hasn't signed on to be the starting quarterback of the Pittsburgh Steelers. So the question on everybody's mind is, what the hell is he waiting for? I mean, why isn't he signing on yet? And, he says that he is tending to quote-unquote personal responsibilities in his personal life that take precedent over, signing on and making a huge commitment to a new NFL team. I think the way he phrased it was unfair to make that commitment to a team with him dealing with the stuff that he's dealing with in his life right now. And the stuff that he's dealing with is that he's helping his friends, and he has a number of friends that live with him there in California, in Malibu, who have been affected by the wildfires that happened last year in Los Angeles, in that area. And he's helping a lot of his friends, build, buy new houses, kind of group in their lives and, help them through some really emotionally tumultuous kind of stuff. And, they've lost family stuff in their houses, stuff that can't be replaced, family heirlooms, stuff like that. And obviously it's taking an emotional toll on them. And Rodgers made a commitment to help them rebuild their lives this offseason. And apparently that work has not been done yet and is not looking to sign with a team until he feels like he's satisfied with the work that he has done in that area of his life. Now, my best guess is here, guys, is that there is probably a portion of the NFL offseason program that he just doesn't want to participate in. He would rather spend time helping his friends, find new houses, rebuild their lives, than go in phase one of the offseason program, which is just like lifting with the team, right? He probably wants to sign on closer to the portion to the offseason program where it's more like actual football, where he's actually able to practice, where he's actually able to be out there with his teammates and, really, get to work. And, I think that it kind of depends on what portion of the offseason that you're looking for. And if I'm him, I can't necessarily blame him. He's 41 years old. He's got other responsibilities in his life that he feels he needs to attend to. So I can't necessarily blame him for not wanting to be around in phase one here, which is literally just meetings, strength conditioning, and then rehab. And meetings. That's not that much, all right? And Rodgers knows, as like a million-year veteran, he doesn't necessarily need to show up to those kinds of things. And then phase two, all right, same thing there. You can practice on the field, but you can't scrimmage against each other in any capacity. You can pretty much just run through stuff at a walk-through pace, and that starts next week on May 5th. Then phase three is OTAs, when you can actually start doing some scrimmage type of stuff, O&D periods, but no pads. And then in training camp, of course, starts in late July. And you'd certainly expect him to be on the team by then. So the question that is probably on your mind right now is, what phase is Aaron Rodgers waiting for to sign by? And, I think that there's probably two possibilities here. Obviously, the sooner he signs, the better. As from a fan's perspective, obviously you want to know the answer to this question. And honestly, the guys in the Steelers locker room want this answer sooner rather than later. But I think there's two potential options here. Phase two begins next week, Monday, on May 5th. So it's possible that Rodgers does sign with the Steelers maybe today, maybe tomorrow, maybe this weekend, and then he's ready to go for phase two, where he can start getting on the field. And even though it's not extensive work, even though it's not scrimmage type of stuff, stuff. It's not live football reps or anything like that. He can still begin that process of building chemistry with his guys in the locker room. Or it could be in phase 3, which is when OTAs begin on May 27th. Maybe he feels like, I don't want to practice unless I can do some of the scrimmage stuff, or I can actually take reps against the defense playing actual plays. Maybe that's kind of the deadline that he's kind of looking at, and that's probably my best guess. And it's not just my best guess, guys. It's also Mark Caboli's best guess from the Pat McAfee show. He's their Steelers correspondent, and this is what he had to say. Quote, I say May 22nd is when he signs, but definitely before OTAs start on May 27th. So I do think that is probably around the time you should watch out for Aaron Rodgers to make a signing with the Pittsburgh Steelers. It's probably going to be maybe a couple more frustrating weeks as we still await an answer, but right before OTAs, I do think Aaron Rodgers will sign on the dotted line. But Big Ben Roethlisberger on his podcast called Footballin' did point out that the Pittsburgh Steelers do need to have some point during this offseason where they need to be able to move on and force Rodgers to make a decision. This is what Ben had to say on his podcast this week. At some point, they need to set a deadline because at some point, Aaron Rodgers needs to start learning the offense and get with the guys. What is the cutoff date? I don't know. Only Coach Tomlin, Mr. Rooney, and Omar Khan know that. I don't know what that looks like. To be honest with you, I truly don't. At some point, you have to say what's best for our team is to just probably move on. And that might sound crazy because it's Aaron Rodgers, but at some point, you start to question, does Aaron really want to play? And listen, man, I do think Rodgers does want to play. I think that he just wants to take care of some of this other off-field stuff before he makes a commitment. But Ben is absolutely right. There is a point in this offseason where the Steelers should just decide to move on. Like, I don't think you want him to sign the day before training camp. Like, that's definitely not what you want, especially if you've been going through the whole offseason program to that point with Mason Rudolph and Will Howard. It just feels like, the guys in that locker room is like, so you think you're good enough to just skip the entire offseason program and show up before training camp? That's not exactly the best way to get people on your side. So I think that the question is, when should that deadline be? When should the Steelers cut it off and say, Aaron, thanks for your consideration, but it's best for our team if we move on at this point? For me, my cutoff point would be mandatory minicamp, because that's when you expect every single veteran that is on your roster to be present, is mandatory minicamp, because it's mandatory. All right, every other OTA, it's voluntary, okay? And Rodgers is certainly treating the offseason program before mandatory minicamp as voluntary as well. So if Rodgers is not signed by mandatory minicamp, which is when every other player on the roster is forced to be there, then I think that's the point where resentment might start to kick in the Steelers locker room, and that's probably when you have to move on. But I'll say this, Pittsburgh sure seems pretty confident that Rodgers is going to sign with them. I mean, everything from Art Rooney saying that Rodgers has straight up told them and given them signals that he wants to play there, to Mike Tomlin saying the conversations have been great, to the actions we've seen from the Steelers not taking a quarterback early in the NFL draft. They clearly believe Rodgers is eventually going to sign with them and that they have some sort of idea of when he's going to sign with them. But if they do strike out, I've been saying this on the show for a while, guys, I think they're going to pivot to Cousins. I think they're perfectly fine doing that. In theory, on paper, he's a good fit for what the Steelers want to do on offense. So if Rodgers, decides to retire or decides to continue to wait, getting closer to training camp, I think at some point they're going to be like, you know what, we're just going to trade for Kirk Cousins and he's going to be our starting quarterback this year. So let me know down there in the comments section, is this true or false? Rodgers will be a Steeler by the end of the month of May. Give me a true or give me a false down there in the comments section. This will be the pinned comment on today's show. In just a second here, I'm going to tell you about our sponsor today at Fanatics. And while I'm telling you about Fanatics today, give me a true or false for today's pinned question. And with that, let's have word from our sponsor here at Fanatics. And they currently are selling DK Metcalf Steelers jerseys on their website right now for you guys to purchase. And not only can you get a DK Metcalf jersey in your size today, but also you can help out our channel financially because every time that you go to chatsports.com/DK and you make a purchase, Fanatics sends us part of those proceeds. So if you guys want to help out the channel and you want to get a DK Metcalf jersey in your closet, go chatsports.com/DK. All that information is in the comments and description of today's show. So now let's move over to Ryan Clark of ESPN, who is a former Super Bowl champion with this organization, big Mike Tomlin fan, all that different stuff. He says the Pittsburgh Steelers should, quote, want to suck in 2025 to end the cycle of mediocrity, specifically at the quarterback position. This is what Ryan, who I have a lot of respect for, by the way, had to say about the Steelers situation. They should want to lose. I know this goes against everything that's black and yellow, but they've been a competitive team the entire time Mike Tomlin's been there. But since Ben Roethlisberger got to like the last 2 or 3 years of his career, they were not a championship contender. And they play just well enough to never get a high enough pick to go get the next Ben Roethlisberger. And you're not going to find that dude in free agency either. So whether it's Mason Rudolph, whether it's Aaron Rodgers, they should want to suck finally. They should want to get that top 10 pick in the quarterback draft that looks to be a lot better next year than the one there was this year. So listen, man, I think RC sounds really, really salty here to me because he obviously has been a big-time anti-Rodgers guy. I mean, if you know anything about the history between Ryan Clark and Aaron Rodgers, they don't like each other, all right? So the fact that the Steelers are putting out signals that they're definitely going to go with Rodgers, Ryan Clark is not the biggest fan of that strategy from his good friend Mike Tomlin and the Pittsburgh Steelers organization. My message to RC is too bad, man. Like, you're kind of throwing a hissy fit here, especially because RC, we know, also wanted the Steelers to draft Shedeur Sanders, and he wanted them to draft him very, very badly. And there was a viral video that went out of the Steelers taking Derek Harmon in round 1, and Ryan Clark had a straight-up meltdown because he realized that it was going to be either Aaron Rodgers, who he really doesn't want to be the quarterback of this football team, or Mason Rudolph, who he also doesn't want to be the starting quarterback of this football team. So listen, man, the reality of the situation is Pittsburgh is not about to tank this season. They don't want to suck. They don't want to lose. In fact, they feel like this team is really close to winning at a very high level. All right? Like, if they felt like they needed to reboot, if they felt like they needed to blow things up, they would have fired Mike Tomlin. They'd be shopping TJ Watt and Cam Hayward, and they would be starting over. But that's not what they're doing. They're going to extend TJ Watt, all right? They brought in DK Metcalf, all right? They're going to bring in a 41-year-old Aaron Rodgers, or at least that's their plan right now. They're trying to win now. So if RC can complain and cry about it all he wants, the Pittsburgh Steelers are going to try to win this year, and I do think they're going to make the playoffs once again. Now, before I go here, a double dose of good news for the Pittsburgh Steelers. It came in over the last several days, the first of which has to do with the 2026 NFL Draft, where the NFL announced the comp picks that teams are going to get next year, and the Steelers got a whopping 4 compensatory picks, where they are now slated to get 11 total picks in the NFL Draft next year. A pick in round 1 and round 2, then they get comp picks in rounds 3, 4, 5, and 6, giving you 4 additional draft picks for next year. And to the Ryan Clark point here, guys, like, he says that the Steelers need to suck to be in position to get a future franchise quarterback. Next year, it's a good quarterback class. There's going to be a number of guys that are available. With this amount of draft capital at your disposal, you can still make the playoffs this year and still be a pretty darn good and competitive football team. And you have enough ammo at your disposal in the draft next year to move up now. All right, so RC can shove it with the we want to win 4 or 5 games next year so we can get the next Big Ben Roethlisberger. You can win 10, 11, 12 games next year and still have the ammo to move up to get your guy. So no, we're not going to lose. We're not going to try to lose. We're not going to try to suck. This is the Pittsburgh Steelers we're talking about here, and we're going to go for it all. Also, something that's also really fun here, Producer Coop, Diontae Johnson's back in the AFC North playing for the clown show, the Cleveland Browns. Shedeur Sanders will be throwing him the football. Man, I love this. And by the way, I would give it about a 0% chance he's on the roster by the end of the season. And he's going to be a Bengal by the end of the year, too. He's going to finish the Infinity Gauntlet with the AFC North teams. It's just too perfect, guys. All right, that'll be it for today's show, guys. Predict it for me down there in the comment section. Will Diontae Johnson make it the entire year in Cleveland, or is he going to complain he doesn't get the ball enough again? Give me a yes or a no down there in the comment section. Don't forget to click that subscribe button. We're trying to get to 100 subscribers on today's show. If you help us out, I greatly appreciate it. Until tomorrow, guys, here we go, Steelers.